DJ Nick Carter on the show. When you hear the trumpet or the flute, you know it's people in a time. You want to use your cookie or chocolate. When you are so easy on me body. How when it happens, you want to
Where the God man them there. Welcome. This is the mailbox here every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. unless it's a holiday. Can you imagine April 9th, 2025? And it's a cool afternoon in Kingston City where I am sitting. And we're going to be looking at grief management. I am Kevin Bailey, my co-host Courtney Morrison in the place. So, man from Morn Point to Negril, great to have you with us again. And all these years, you have been very faithful, ladies, of course, as well. The mailbox is brought to you today by Solid PVC Pipes, manufactured in Jamaica by Fosrich Company Limited.
When you say Fosrich, you say electrical, SWA cables, conduits, transformers, and breakers. When you say Fosrich, you say lighting, chandeliers, and more. When you say Fosrich, you say LEDs and solar water heaters. Fosrich is electrical, lighting, solar, and LEDs. Visit us today, Kingston, Mandeville, and Montego Bay. Fosrich.
That's right.
I am a man, yes. Strong man, integrity man. I am a man.
Okay, strong men in the place this afternoon. So we're going to be looking at a very important topic, grief management. Grief is the response to the loss of something deemed important, particularly to the death of a person to whom a bond affection was formed. Although conventionally focused on the emotional response to loss, grief also has physical, cognitive, behavioral, social, cultural, spiritual, and philosophical dimensions. While the terms are often used interchangeably, bereavement refers to the state of loss, while grief is the reaction to that loss. The grief associated with death is familiar to most people, but individuals grieve in connection with a variety of losses throughout their lives, such as unemployment, ill health, or the end of a relationship. Loss can be categorized as either physical or abstract. Physical loss is related to something that the individual can touch or measure, such as losing a spouse through death, while other types of loss are more abstract, possibly relating to the aspects of a person's social interactions. This is indeed a huge topic. This is the program designed for men with guests who are men, hosted by men. It's aired every Wednesday, unless it's already at 5:30 p.m. right here on Love 101, the family station. It is the mailbox, and I'm Kevin Bailey, my co-host right here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Courtney Morrison, and indeed it's a wonderful day, the 9th day of April. The best month of the year. There's no other month like it. We know that for a fact. And so to all our listeners, thanks for making it Love 101 and making it your station of choice. We're talking about the topic grief management, a very important topic, especially in this season where persons seem to be losing loved ones. Grief management involves developing strategies to cope with the emotional pain and process the loss of a loved one or significant event, which can include self-care, seeking support, and finding healthy ways to express emotion. So we're going to be taking a look at all those areas today. Yes, Kevin?
Yeah, so true. And I do agree with you that April is a great month. And I want to say happy birthday to my son Samuel, the 11th of April. So indeed.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. You see, Kevin thought it was such an important month that they agreed to have you in April.
You see. Wow. So, well, Courtney, we're going to have a good time, because it's not often that men get to process, to unpack
Yes.
something like grief. Women tend to get the opportunity. But here we are. And this is where we challenge, encourage, empower our men to become all they were created to become. So it's really, really a privilege to have Dr. Marlon Simpson, who is a licensed clinical psychologist that has successfully completed his doctoral studies with an emphasis on trauma and neuropsychology. Marlon works with the Bellevue Hospital, the Revamp Center at St. Joseph's Hospital on weekends, where he conducts modification, neuropsychological assessments, and behavioral modification for patients who have had traumatic brain injuries. He's also a clinical psychologist at the Rehabilitation Institute of the Caribbean. Marlon is also working as the clinical psychologist with a company based in Belize, as well as one in Beijing, China. In his private practice, he sees a range of clients, both adults and children, specifically creating treatment plans for children with autism spectrum disorder. The doctoral project centers around stroke and levels of PSTD, that's post-traumatic stress disorder, in patients. He is the proud father of two sons, can you imagine, Micah and Courtney, to whom he has dedicated his life to raising well. Welcome,
Awesome.
welcome, Dr.
Awesome.
Marlon Simpson. Welcome to the mailbox.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. And we saw how important the name Courtney is. You decided to name one of your sons Courtney. That's just so awesome. The name Courtney means in English, apart from its French origin, the heart's content.
Right.
And Doc, it's good to have you with us today. And we're sure you will help quite a number of persons today. I love especially the area of autism and children, It's really something that needs to be looked at quite significantly. So it's good to have you with us here today.
Really, really. Thank you so much. And man on man, we're encouraging you, to, just remind the fathers, the brothers, the sons, the husbands to listen up, because this is an important session. You can also send in your questions. Ladies, we can't do without you. So we want to ask you a question for your feedback. What does it take for someone to overcome grief? From your perspective, ladies, you can send in your own responses. What does it take for someone to overcome grief? You can participate in the program by leaving us a message via WhatsApp, Facebook, YouTube. Females, remember, no calls or voice notes. Allow the man them to do the calling and the voice notes, but please respond via the other methods. So, Courtney, you have to tell Doc.
I have to tell Doc about this thing that we have been doing for the past 12 years. We call it a shout out. We count to 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we shout out Monday. That's the moniker we use, Monday. So after 3, 1, 2, 3, Monday.
Yes,
man. And it signifies the fact that there are men that are around, and indeed broken men are real men, but Monday. And we just want to help to ensure that men are encouraged to walk in the purpose for which God has given us. And so, boys to men, we continue to encourage, empower, uplift, and ensure that we offer to them hope. Just want to, before we get into the main section, we have a section that we call the draft, the direct response for the featured theme. And right here, we ask a preliminary question, and this one is directed to you, Doc. Is the church doing enough to help persons who are grieving? Is the church doing enough to help persons who are grieving? Yay or nay?
I would say nay. I think there is a lot more that can be done, because people grieve in so many different ways and so intensely that after the first few weeks, everybody kind of forgets about you. Nobody really checks in anymore. But that's the time that we really need the support and the care. So definitely we need to step up our game.
Wow. Indeed, it's not just about the initial contact. It has to be ongoing. And sometimes we have to remember it's not a short sprint. It can become a marathon. It can take even years.
And Doc, I know we can follow through with some more questions, but why is it important for us to focus on like grief management? For some people, this seems to be just a simple thing, and you just live with it. Why is it necessary, and especially to help our men, because it's a man's focus program, to deal with grief? Just your initial responses.
Well, as you know, growing up as a male, the thought now is hold up your stress. We're not supposed to talk about anything, but that causes more harm than anything else. And so we have to be extremely careful. We have to face the realities, whatever they may be, as men especially, and look at the emotions that we have. Right. So, yeah.
No.
That terminology, I find it so interesting. Hold up your stress. Men have been deemed to be soldiers, and they're the strong ones. They're supposed to be the pillar that remains standing when everything else is falling down. How can we help our men to ensure that they really don't fall down while grieving? One of the things I said to men is, God didn't give us tear glands nor tear ducts for the fun of it. They are there for a reason. He didn't give them to women only. How can we help our men to understand that this is an important thing that God has given to us? Tears are not a sign of weakness.
Right. So tears aren't a sign of weakness, but it can become very uncomfortable for us as males to show that side of us. So sometimes engaging our brothers on the side of the road, or wherever we meet them, just have a conversation. How you doing? What's going on? And it's not going to be very easy for a person to just open up and share everything. But the more comfortable we are with ourselves, is the easier it is for us to engage others. And in engaging them, and to find that we're not just brushing them off, it gives an opportunity to really share and talk and say, okay, find that this is a really safe space for me to share some of the thoughts. But there are always limits to everything. So we have to look at those.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that. How would you define grief, and probably a little bit about grief management? And we know we have men listening from St. Thomas and Portland and Kingston, but just to break it down so that every man, can understand, but this thing is a common thing. How would you define that, Doc?
All right. So grief is our reaction to some form of loss. It usually comes in stages. So, of course, for one particular staged theory, we have denial, we have bargaining, we have acceptance, we have pleading, and all the rest. So, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we are going to cry about the death of somebody, but maybe the death of a relationship. So it's really that sense of loss. And then grief management is, are we effectively processing all that we have gone through? Or are we just holding it in, and then one day it's going to blow up with us?
I love that final comment about processing, because we have to come to a conclusion that this is all about a process. We're up on our first break here inside the mailbox. I'm Courtney Morrison, sitting in with Kevin Beard, my co-host. We are both co-hosts for the last 12 years. And our special guest, Dr. Marlon Simpson. We're talking about grief management. Going to take care of some business. So soon come back.
Now your mama, yes. Strong man. Integrity man.
Ready to experience 6 times more freshness in your clothes? Try Downy Scent Beads. Its fragrance is so amazing, you have to sniff it to believe it. Try Downy Scent Beads today. 6 times more freshness versus using detergent alone.
When you say phosphorus, you say electrical. SWA cables, conduits, transformers, and breakers. When you say phosphorus, you say lighting, chandeliers, and more. When you say phosphorus, you say LEDs and solar water heaters. Phosphorus is electrical, lighting, solar, and LEDs. Visit us today, Kingston, Mandeville, and Montego Bay. Phosphorus.
We've seen a lot of our customers make some good moves over the years. Whether it's sharing a hug with a friend you haven't seen in a long time or sharing a meal, Grace has been there. So let's keep making these moments together, because rest assured, every time you choose Grace, you know you're making a good move.
Empower your future today with international and regional certification. Register now at the Distinction College, now opening a satellite school in Montego Bay. Start online and face-to-face classes in CSEC, Cape and City, and Gills Math and English, practical, geriatric, pediatric, and mental health nursing. Call center, AC, plumbing, electrical, housekeeping, food prep, waitering, bartending, pharmacy, and phlebotomy tech. Business administration, front desk clerk, supervisory, HR, project and business management, customer service, early childhood and childcare, and much more. No subjects required, no age limits. Register this week and win a subject or course for free. Visit us at Dome Street, Montego Bay, or call 876-545-3782.
Sonia's Homestyle presents Old Time Gospel Fest, April 20, 2025 at 6 p.m. at Sonia's Homestyle Restaurant, 17 Central Avenue, Kingston 10. Enjoy performances by Lubert Levy, Rhoda Isabella, Kerry Sales, and more. Master of Ceremony, Leighton Smith, and backing band Full Spectrum. Tickets now available at Sonia's Homestyle for $6,500 all inclusive. Proceeds in aid of Helping Hands Foundation. Get your tickets today and see you soon at Old Time Gospel Fest.
I am a man, yes. Strong man, integrity man.
Welcome back to the program, The Mailbox. We're live here on Love 101, a family station. We're live on Facebook and YouTube as well, also on TikTok at Love 101 Jamaica. Our guest for this afternoon is Dr. Marlon Simpson. And we're talking about grief management. Yes, grief management. How do we deal with loss? How to indeed effectively evaluate, assess, and indeed come to a place where we're able to manage the stress. Doc, before we go any further, we're into a section where we just want to get to know a little bit more about you. You know, where were you born? Kevin's favorite question, were you born with a gold spoon in your mouth? You know, tell us a bit more about who is Dr. Marlon Simpson. Which high school you went to? Calabar? Morant Bay High School?
No, I went to Meadowbrook High.
Excellent, sir.
Great school.
Right. Yeah, I mean, all of my life has been education and serving people. So learning about people, serving people from ever since. That's my whole life.
So you're born in Kingston, or you migrated from the country?
Born in Kingston, but moved all over the place. So settled back in Kingston now, but had a very interesting life.
So tell us what led you to this point where you are a licensed psychologist and doing all the fantastic work that we read about. Did you fantasize and dream about this career when you were young, or it was something else? And what changed that so that you are here at this point?
Well, funny enough, the first time I looked at some applications or courses that I could do, psychology was the first one I saw. But I thought I wasn't smart enough to get into school to do psychology. So I did a number of other things. But when your heart is in it, you always find a way back to it. So I was about 17. I was volunteering with some children who needed support. I did that through Boys Brigade. Then just never stopped working with people, found my way back into it. But specifically neuropsychology, I lost my grandmother to dementia, and
Oh, sorry about
dedicated
that.
myself to going into that field.
Hmm.
Tough loss indeed. Dementia seems to be becoming more prevalent than before. Not sure what's happening there.
I'm not
It
sure.
it yeah. It is all about grief management today. We have Dr. Marlon Simpson and his life targeted neuropsychology with what has occurred. So you moved into the field of psychology. Where did you attend school? As in to get your doctorate, pre-doctorate?
University of the West Indies for the bachelor's and master's, and then I moved on to California Southern University in of course California. Completed the doctorate, double specializing in health and neuropsychology.
All right.
And so you are at this point now where you're doing exactly what you love, helping people, serving people. Tell us about some of what you have encountered and how you have helped others to manage loss and trauma.
All right, so one of the things that I had to learn very quickly is you can enter the emotions with the persons, but you can't get stuck there.
Hmm.
So in the first couple of years, I used to end up going home feeling all emotional because I'm carrying everybody's challenges with me. But eventually, I learned to enter into the pain with them, but then also go about my own life afterwards.
Yeah.
Primarily because if I'm feeling all emotional, there's no way I can help somebody else after that.
Right.
I'm carrying somebody else's grief.
Yeah, that's a big one, and I'm sure requires the skill set and the experience to empathize and not carry home all of that with you. Tell us from your observation, because it seems that there's a lot of grief in Jamaica, and do how do people recognize that it can be a problem? Or when it's just normal. Because some people you just get sad, but you get over things and you realize you're going. But what are some of the signs that people are stuck in a certain phase, whether it's the anger phase or the denial, and they're not moving, and what would they have to do, Doc, in order to move further?
All right, so persons will know that they're stuck if they never unpack a lot of what they have been through, or they listen too keenly to what other people are saying in terms of how they should grieve. And I spoke about that just today, where I was telling the persons that, look, no one can tell you how to grieve. And the minute we get stuck on, but you should be past this now, you should be dealing with this now, it adds to the frustration for individuals. So it's understanding your own process. But you understand if you're stuck if you just bury it and you just don't face it. And so each time it comes up, it just reopens the wounds all over again, and you just end up burying it all over again. And like any wound, if it's not dealt with, it will get an infection. And so people do get mental, emotional infections. They just feel stuck and not able to move on or process.
Yeah, just a follow up on that. Right, just a follow up on it. So some persons sometimes they are told, get over it, man. Live your what you're doing, or just pray and move on. Are those helpful stuff for people who are experiencing those kind of pain? And what would you say to those who keep telling people just get over it now?
First of all, that is absolutely not helpful at all, because when you say statements like that, it causes the person to shut up or shut down because they feel as though you're not understanding and you're dismissing what I'm experiencing. I share an experience with you, not in a counseling setting, but just amongst friends. Two of my friends got into a fight because one said, unfortunately, I just lost my mother and I'm not dealing with it well. And in an attempt to identify, my other friend said, oh, I understand. I lost my dog last week, so I know what it means to grieve. No.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes people want to say the best thing, but sometimes the best things don't necessarily come out. So sometimes the best thing to say is nothing at all. Just be there with the person. That's the best thing that we can do. All right.
I heard that one just a while ago and I exclaimed immediately. Yeah, that can be quite traumatic. And we're in Jamaica, right?
Right.
And we know how that goes. I want to ask a question a little bit earlier. In dealing with these loss and grief, how we seem to be talking about different phases, different stages. What are those stages and phases? We talk about acceptance, denial. What can we tell persons about those stages of grief?
All right. So even though there are stages, so of course, as we had said before, you have denial, you have anger, you have bargaining, you have acceptance, you have pleading. Now, persons think that there is one set way to experience all these. You must go through anger first, then this one, then that one, then you end with acceptance. And that's not necessarily the case. And there's no timeline either for persons to grieve. If we're not talking about something we call complex grief, which is a whole other topic, which is us persons who are not able to deal with the intense emotions even years after. But regular grief, there isn't a set timeline. So we can't force persons through the stages, especially depending on the level of closeness. And external persons to the situation will always have an opinion. Oh, it's time now for you to move on. But they're not experiencing that level of grief that you have. So it's about giving grace.
Oh, giving grace indeed. And I think we're just about ready to take our second break. But wanting you to maybe start and we finish up. Are there differences with how men grieve than women? And if so, what are those differences that you have observed, known about, Yeah.
I would even say that everybody grieves differently. So not only males versus females, but everybody. But from what I've seen, females tend to be more open with their emotions and the feelings that they're experiencing. Males tend to, in some instances, show a little bit more aggression or frustration, or they just go by themselves and not want to engage anyone. So those are just some of the ways that people engage males versus females.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marlon Simpson, who is our guest as we speak on anger management, grief management. My apologies. Kevin Bailey is here with me, Courtney Morrison. It is the mailbox. We come right back after these messages.
Sit and pass your CXC Cape City and Girls Math and English exams in only 6 to 12 months at Distinction College. Start online and face-to-face classes in May and sit exams in January or May, June of next year. In math, English, chemistry, biology, IT, start international course in practical, geriatric and pediatric nursing, phlebotomy, plumbing, early childhood education, and more. Register this week and win yourself a course or subjects for free. Visit us in Kingston, Spanish Town, Ocherius, and St. Elizabeth. Call us at 356-4167.
I'm Itana, and human trafficking is everybody's business. Call 1-888-PROTECT to report suspected cases of child trafficking.
The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6 p.m. right here inside Love 101.
When you say Fosrich, you say electrical. SWA cables, conduits, transformers, and breakers. When you say Fosrich, you say lighting, chandeliers, and more. When you say Fosrich, you say LEDs and solar water heaters. Fosrich is electrical, lighting, solar, and LEDs. Visit us today, Kingston, Maniville, and Montego Bay. Fosrich.
I am a man, yes. Strong man, integrity man.
Welcome back. This is the Mailbox here every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. on your favorite radio station, Love 101 FM. Courtney Morrison, Kevin Bailey in the place of our special guest, Dr. Marlon Simpson. Dr. Simpson, in Jamaica, you mentioned men might appear to be more frustrated, and I'm here thinking, is it that they may go over to the anger expression? And just asking, do you think we're seeing evidence of that, whether on our streets, in our driving, in the aggression of men or boys, but they may not be conscious that's a part of grief? I wonder your take on that.
Definitely. So a lot of my research in terms of the doctoral level has been around male mental health or lack thereof. And one of the things that came out in terms of my research, especially amongst our local people as males, is that there's a lot of anger as a presentation, but anger is a secondary emotion. Primary emotion could be sadness, could be frustration, it could be a feeling of guilt or otherwise. So persons just naturally feel like, okay, you need to be moving faster on the road. I need to get through quicker. And so there are these angry outbursts, but they're not making the link between the loss of a family member or the loss of a job or loss of a relationship as the driving force behind the behaviors. But quite often that's the case, where people are hiding behind some very, very strong unresolved emotions, especially as males.
It would seem to me then, though, Doc, these expressions of anger in our men, could it be that society has played a pivotal role in directing or biasing our men to lean in this direction? And how do we help to change the narrative or the focus of our men on thinking, whenever we come to this place, we talk about man, you cry like a big woman, or, you talk too much. How do we therefore help men to deal with their grief if they are not given the room to speak, the outlet for their own emotions? How do we help our men?
All right, so helping our men is a lot simpler than we think, but then it ends up being more complex than we think at the same time. Simple from the perspective of creating a safer space for males to talk. And again, it doesn't have to be a structured setting for persons to just share and talk. It's just meeting persons wherever they are, physically or otherwise. Hey, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about some random things. And in those random conversations, we as males begin to feel heard and appreciated. I would never go against our culture and say we need to do away with how we understand ourselves as males, but I think our relationships need to be safer spaces for us to share some of our concerns. We may not jump and share our emotions, but there are concerns that are there that we can address in these safe spaces with our partner, with somebody who we are close to. And sometimes, not in all cases, but sometimes our wives or girlfriends, they tend to say, I want it to be emotional around me. I want to see your emotions. But the minute we start showing emotions, then it's like you're not being a man. You're being a sweet pepper.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's creating that space. Coincidentally, in my private practice and even in the thing, 90% of my clients and patients are males, and they come willingly.
Wow.
You know.
So that's good news. It's really great to hear. As far as abusing like drugs, when certain persons are grieving, is there any link, if you like unhealthy ways to grieve as against healthy ways, and what would those look like?
All right, so definitely unhealthy ways have been drug abuse of varying kinds and varying intensities. So that includes smoking, drinking, inhaling formaldehyde, um, using different alcoholic combinations with energy drinks. So these are some ways that people use, but what we don't understand is after a while, these ways of coping stop working. And so we either have to double up or find stronger ways of dealing with it because we don't want to face any of these situations. But alternatives, football, basketball, swimming, something that physically engages you, that helps to release a lot of the strong emotions. The gym, yes, definitely. Especially if we don't want to talk about our feelings.
Playing dominoes.
Yes.
I think sometimes our wives or the ladies in our lives don't understand. I mean, this is something Kevin and I talk about. Sometimes the men don't come home till 2 o'clock in the morning playing dominoes. And it's mainly because it's an outlet for them. That people think men don't talk much. Put them around a domino table, carry them to a football match. Let them talk about them favorite artists, whether gospel or otherwise, and you'll hear how men can dialogue. So it's not a real picture to say men don't talk much. That I don't believe in. So some of the healthy ways that we can grieve will help to get us out. And I've noted you have also talked about there's no real timeline. Telling person to get over it isn't really a solution. I see where you also have to deal with autism. And here's why I'm going to link this to grief management. I've had even women who come and say, boy, they've seen where, children are like this. And they don't know what they would do if they were to have a child like that. And strangely enough, two persons that I personally know who have expressed that have ended up with autistic children. So it's a sense of loss of what they thought would necessarily be their child's intelligence. How does one deal with that?
All right, so very good, very important question. Part of it is, for some persons, it's necessary for them to grieve over the process because they didn't expect to have a child with special needs. They didn't expect to have 24-hour care of a child if that's the case. So it's coming to the understanding that as a human being, you're going to have emotional reactions to these situations. And that's okay. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated. But then, even in that process, I encourage parents to start reading reputable sources of information on what autism is, how it's managed, get your child assessed, speak to your doctors, get their full perspective on what's happening and how to deal with it. And I think that begins the healing process of saying, well, I have to deal with this situation, but at least I'm grieving, quote unquote, as it were, and trying to manage the situation while educating myself on the matter.
Thank you. So lots of education.
Right.
Psycho education is necessary. We have been having well, you would be familiar with intimate partner violence, and
Right.
sometimes men get in jacket finding out, or other stuff happening, and not aware that they can grieve the loss of the intimate relationship in a healthy way. What are some of the suggestions for our men, who may face loss of intimate relationships, whether it's their marriages, whether it's girlfriend, etc., their daughters, sons, and how to kind of help them specifically with the intimate relationships, because you seem we're having some difficulty there to go to a better place, Doc.
All right. So again, everybody grieves differently. So if you find that somebody's initial natural reaction is to withdraw, that's okay. If they feel a need to be very vocal or to go out and to engage in a sport that cause them to really be loud and all that, that's also fine. But the dangerous part is when we suppress, when we try to push down a lot of what we experience. And I say that from the backdrop of growing up, where you get an injury, you're outside, you're playing, you get a cut, a deep cut, and the first thing you do is you go inside and you wrap up under the sheets, hoping that it will just clear up on its own. And then eventually your mother, grandmother finds you and they have to help you. So it's the same thing where if we cover it up, if we cover up grief, it festers and it becomes a dangerous situation for persons. So it's going to be very, very important to deal with or to face head on what you're experiencing.
Dr. Marlon, you had mentioned it earlier that says, just like physical wounds, if left unattended or stay there long enough, they become infected. Treatment. How do we go about getting treatment? How do we, and I'm using the word we, don't it? How does one go about getting treatment, our men, for these emotional wounds, which is what I believe grief is? How does one find that safe space? Because I gather there are not many of those safe spaces.
All right. One of the important things, again, is to not hold it in. Some men find it good to go out and have very shallow conversations, resisting the urge to stay inside and to process or to push it down. So that's the first and perhaps most difficult obstacle to get over, because many of us are so used to being hurt. We share certain things and then we hear it back. So it scares us from wanting to share anything with anybody. So over time, we get to know people. If we're comfortable along those lines, we get to know people and we get to share certain things with them. We don't have to share a lot, but we share some of the key aspects. That's going to be important. If we have trusted friends that we can share more, then fine. Again, we go back to the whole matter of sports. So it's working out a lot of the stress there. It's putting all of our energy into a physical activity. And then also, of course, there's therapy. There's talking to a professional. And it's okay to shop around in terms of therapists. If you meet a person and you're not comfortable, feel free to move on to somebody else. But it's just getting it out.
It's 6:15 in the afternoon. You're listening to the program, The Mailbox. I'm Pastor Courtney Morrison along with Kevin Bailey. Our guest, Dr. Marlon Simpson. We're going to take our final break and come back. We want to talk about fear and trust, because that may be a serious debilitating factor for our men as to get therapy. Soon come back.
You can see the face, but not the heart. Those who want to do you wrong.
Bless up. This is Christopher Martin. Human trafficking is a crime. Let's unite to end human trafficking. Be wise, open your eyes, spot them, stop them, and report them.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
Shadow at the dark. No shadow at the dark.
Febreze. Imagine getting home after a long day and it smells so amazing that it makes you smile. Try Febreze Plugs, an air freshener that delivers continuous scent for up to 50 days when you plug it in low mode. Indulge in wonderful scents for weeks with Febreze.
I am a man, yes. Strong man, integrity man.
Welcome back. This is the Mailbox. Here it every Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. on your favorite station, Love 101 FM. Courtney Morrison, Kevin Bailey in the place, and our very special guest, Dr. Marlon Simpson. So I think before the break, Courtney was mentioning the issue of fear and trust issues. How do we begin to improve on creating safe spaces so that men can trust persons they're coming to? And what would you say to men? Where do they look? What are they looking for persons who would be able to help as they grieve? Dr. Simpson.
All right. So again, if we can't find a safe space in our homes, then that's a red flag as well. And again, we can't betray our personalities. So if we're not persons who openly share our personal thoughts with even persons we're close to, we can't force ourselves to become very open and sharing everything. It's a gradual process if we feel comfortable. It's being true to how you experience your own emotions. It's okay to perhaps write things down or to have smaller conversations and set boundaries. So what I find works sometimes is, all right, I'm sharing some things, but then it's becoming a little bit too much. Time out. Let me take a stop here. So creating those spaces where persons can say, all right, I have a space to time out. I can share as much as I want to or not. Some persons even feel comfortable talking to their plants and animals, talking to themselves. Nothing is wrong with that, contrary to popular belief. Answering yourself is fine as well. The only concern I tell persons is if you're talking to your plants and animals and they start responding, then that's a cause for concern. Otherwise, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. All right. So it's about creating a space where people feel comfortable sharing smaller things until gradually they can share more. And that goes for intimate partners, with our girlfriends, with our wives, and then even sharing with other men as well to say, well, been going through some things lately. Persons may say, what's going on? Don't really want to talk about it, but just know that I'm going through a lot. Just pray for me. Remember me in your prayers. Things like that are also good ways to get the conversation going. But don't push. Don't force a person to talk.
Yeah, somehow we have to continue to educate and help our men to become less fearful, more trusting. I just did a funeral just last week, Saturday, for a 30-year-old young man who committed suicide, only to find out a week later that his father had also committed suicide earlier. Mm-hmm. And this young man committed suicide in front of his 8-year-old child, his son. How do we help? I find I keep on asking the same question though, mm-hmm. to convince, to help our men to recognize it is okay to ask for help?
It's not being forceful. We have a tendency as human beings to feel very passionately about something and want to have the person respond right away. But we have to understand that persons don't go through situations in one day. So figuring it out in one day doesn't necessarily exist. It's going to be a journey. It's going to be a marathon as well. So when we approach persons, we have to go with that perspective of not saying, I'm going to help you to fix your problem right now. It's more of, help me to understand what's going on. Help me to walk with you through the situation, giving them that space and that comfort. Because the minute persons feel as though you're forcing them, they're going to shut down. Also, avoid certain words. So we mentioned some before, but things like hush or you'll get over it, or people have gone through worse. Whatever the statements are, says to the individual, what you're going through is not worth talking about. So just be quiet.
Wow.
Yeah, so person to pull back.
Oh, that's so huge, and especially in our society, as you mentioned, the words, you know, the Lord knows best. That is something that they say. Can you imagine at this time, you know, and be strong? Why is it that those things are not really helpful at the time when the person is in deep grief, Doc? You know, yeah, because some people don't kind of understand. You know, they mean well, they want to do well, but the person who is grieving don't want to hear that at this particular time. Can you share a little bit about that, you know, for our listeners? Yeah.
All right. So as males, we're always expected to be strong, to be leaders, to have everything together, have everything figured out, have a plan. But sometimes we just don't want to be strong. We need times where we can just not be Superman in the situation. We can be Clark Kent.
Yeah.
We can be human. We can be dealing with our own emotions, perhaps in private. So it's that expectation, and that's coming from way back, that expectation that we're always going to manage, we're always going to figure it out, when sometimes we just need to step back and just breathe. Yeah.
There's at least this barrier.
Oh, thank you, Doc. Really appreciate that. How can the churches create the safe spaces that Courtney want us to have more and more? Are there certain suggestions, especially in churches? How can we create that safe space where everybody, but men specifically, could feel safer and little by little be willing to talk and process their grief?
All right. I think that one of the important things is to have small groups where they meet and just have conversations on specific topics. Could even be during church time, because you know that before church, people are running to church. After church, everybody's running from church. It's the rice and peas and chicken.
Yes.
So it's having that space in church itself where persons can even share in smaller groups their own experiences. It's having domino nights. It's having football matches. It's having different competitions that bring people together, whole families together. But around one domino table, you may have men talking about various things. You could assign a person from the church to each table. And so they're driving a particular conversation very generally. And then you may find that some persons feel comfortable sharing some deeper things. Even in the football games as well. Same thing.
Awesome, awesome. We're coming to a close shortly, and we're talking about grief management here on the mailbox. We see some points by our producer, one about self-care, about prioritizing physical health, eating nutritious meals, get enough sleep, and engage in gentle exercise. Some exercise have to be more gentle. As well as seeking support, talk to trusted friends and family, sharing your feelings and memories can be a great way to process your grief. Join a support group. Expressing your emotions, allow yourself to feel. It's important to acknowledge and process your emotions, whether they are sadness, anger, or numbness. And practical tips, just a few. We probably have to put these out there. Create a routine. Establish a daily routine can provide structure and a sense of normalcy during a difficult time. Be patient with yourself. I believe that one is important. Be patient with yourself. I've learned that for myself. How can one get in touch with you, Dr. Simpson? You know, you seem to be one of those who our men can talk to. You sound that, you know, just listening to you sound like somebody we can trust. You know, your demeanor is pleasant. I'm sure many would feel comfortable with you. How does one get in touch with you?
All right. So for persons who are comfortable coming to Bellevue, Bellevue is a safe place for you to come and have a conversation with me. I'm also in private practice as well. So that's Loving Minds Associates Limited. We're in Kingston and having other bases in other parishes as well. I can be reached. We can Google us. We're on. We have our own website, Loving Minds Associates. We can reach out to us via Instagram. We have our contact numbers are 876-825-1349, or even lovingmindsassociates@gmail.com as well.
Great conversation. Just a final thought on the whole issue of grief management and specifically to our men. Any final thoughts, Dr. Simpson?
All right. One of the things that I want to say is that most persons think that because we're therapists, we're PhD level doctors, that we have lost touch with humanity. But we all grieve. We all have our pain, our struggles, and so we all have moments when we're strong, when we're able, when we're good, and other times when, quite frankly, we're just not managing. And that's okay. And it's those times, especially, that we seek the help and the support from persons who we trust and persons who will look out for us and care for us. Very, very important for us to remember that.
Awesome. Forgive yourself. Be patient with yourself. Indeed, you're gonna make it. We say thanks to Dr. Nadine Blair, our Operations and Programs Manager, Jermaine Johnson, our hardworking producer, Niku Angus, the technical support. And we say especially thanks this afternoon to our guest, Dr. Marlon Simpson. He's a licensed grief counselor, and he went to Meadowbrook High School, wonderful school. We end the show with this quote saying, tears shed for another person are not a sign of weakness. They are a sign of a pure heart. And I agree with that 100%. Jose N. Harris said that.
That is so true. That's it for our show this week. Catch you next week, Wednesday, April 16, 2025. For God's Grace, we'll focus on God's Grace. Mr. Paul Park will be here. Same place, same time inside the mailbox. The mailbox was brought to you today by Solid PVC Pipes, manufactured in Jamaica by Fosrich Company Limited.
Yes. Someone. Integrity man. I am a man, yes.
And Love Television. Our general offices will be closed to the public at 12 noon on Holy Thursday, April 17 through to Easter Monday, April 21, 2025, and will reopen on Tuesday, April 22 at 8:30 a.m.
Programs and commercials for the period Thursday, April 17 through to Tuesday, April 22 should be submitted by 9 a.m. on Wednesday.